أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of Allah, the most compassionate, the most merciful. Verily, our praise is due to Allah. We praise Him, we seek His aid, and we ask for His forgiveness. We seek refuge in Allah from the evils of our own selves and from the evils of our own actions. And whomsoever Allah guides, none can misguide. And whomsoever Allah leaves astray, none can guide back to the correct path. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. I testify there is no deity worthy of our worship except for Allah, who is alone, with no partnership, and never has and never will be another. And we bear witness that Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, is the last and the final prophet of Allah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, brothers and sisters, friends and family, and everybody tuning in here to the live stream. Jazakallah khairan for joining us again for a continuation of the Sunday discussion, the halaqahs and discussions and book readings that we will usually have stemming from the Northeastern chapter of Embrace. Today we're going to be undertaking a new project, or a new book, therefore, of the Exquisite Pearl, Al-Durat Al-Tahira, which was written by Sheikh Abd al-Rahman al-Zadi, who had passed away in 1956 of the Common Era, and there is a translation by Abu Aliyah Suhail Sharif, written by Jawziya Press. Alhamdulillah. With that, we'll jump into today's topic. I do want to mention here we're having some technical difficulties for today for getting it started on the usual link. So if anybody's watching this and wondering what was happening, we are sorting it out, but at least wanted to get the recording done for today, inshallah, and we'll get into the actual contents of the book. So today will just be the introduction and opening up of what we're going to be getting into with this in particular book, inshallah, with the translator's preface, and inshallah, we will continue in the following week with the actual book itself. And the translator's preface to this in particular book is as such. Bismillah, all praise be to Allah, Lord of the worlds. May Allah extol and shower abundant blessings and peace upon the best of His creation, the Prophet Muhammad SAW, and upon his family, his companions, and all those who follow them until the day of resurrection. Inshallah. I may actually have people wanting to join here. It's a last minute thing, inshallah. So, alhamdulillah. Let me see if I can get this sent out, inshallah. Right. Apologize about the hold up here, inshallah, but we'll have some people joining here to the Zoom meeting, inshallah, which is always great. Alhamdulillah.
I'm staying right here. You're the one guy who knows more about Bergens than anyone, but when we
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for joining. Alhamdulillah. Apologize about the hold up here, but we'll get back into contents in just a moment here. Just things being worked at behind the scenes, inshallah. Okay, mashallah. I see some other people just joined in here, inshallah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everybody. We are currently on the live stream here, inshallah. Was having some technical difficulties. I was just mentioning here in the recording uh, when trying to link it to that original link that we had, inshallah. But we'll get it sorted out for next week here. But thank you all for joining in, inshallah. And I didn't jump into the book quite yet, inshallah. Just some background here, just to reiterate for those who just joined us here. We're going to be tackling the book, The Exquisite Pearl, which is The Journey to Allah in the Home of the Hereafter by Sheikh Abed Al-Rahman Al-Sadi, who passed away in 1956, the Common Era. The Exquisite Pearl, also known as Al-Durat al-Khira, is this is a translated book as well by Abu Alayya Surahil Sharif, and inshallah, we're just going to be going through the preface and why we're going to be reading this book, or what benefits we can get from reading this book, inshallah. But the preface is as such. Bismillah. All praise be to Allah, Lord of the worlds. May Allah extol and shower abundant blessings and peace upon the best of His creation, the Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and upon his family, his companions, and all those who follow them until the day of resurrection. To continue the material landscape, Allah the Exalted said in the majestic Quran in Surah Al-Shura, Surah 42, Ayat 20, whoever aspires to the harvest of the afterlife, we grant him increase in his harvest, and whoever aspires to the harvest of this world, we grant him of it here, but in the afterlife he shall have no portion. So in today's maelstrom of materialism and spread of Western liberalism, most people's aspirations tend not to extend beyond those of gratifying desires, appeasing the urges of the appetites, and that inner yearning within the human condition to know our origin and our creator, to understand the purpose of our existence, to bring into our lives a richer and deeper sense of meaning has, for all intents and purposes, been stifled and turned into what is now seen as a social taboo. And in short, those fundamental questions and inner yearnings that ultimately define our humanity have, in most cases, been either suppressed or ignored by the individuals, or methodically purged from them. So the result then is greed, selfishness, nihilism, and spiritual bankruptcy, which have become the prominent hallmarks of many of today's individuals, whereas hedonism, mass consumerism, environmental vandalism, the rape of Earth's natural resources so as to ensure today's material comforts, perks, and profits have become emblematic of humanity as to a more global level, and is only increasing furthermore. And it would seem, though, that the ideology of materialism has aided people in their actual quality of living, it nevertheless continues to play havoc with their actual quality of life. And caught in this value of is the Muslim world. Taken by Western culture, the sole preoccupation for many Muslims has now become the standard of living and their own material achievement. And as such, the Muslim world has fallen prey to similar dysfunctionality and dissonance that inevitably occurs when faith, spirituality, and conformity to the divine will are neglected and materialism is embraced. And the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu has forewarned us, saying, "By Allah, it is not poverty that I fear for you, but I fear, excuse me, but I fear the world will be open to you as it was open to those before you, that you would compete with one another over it as they had competed, and that it would destroy you as it destroyed them." So now we go into what is that sound aspiration. So disengaging from this medley of materialism requires engaging the higher purpose for which we are created. The prelude to which is a sound inspiration, which is used in repetition in this book, irada. And what is meant by this irada, the sound aspiration? It is the desire to draw closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through inner struggle, mujahada. In other words, it is in the heart's quest for its spiritual sustenance. Imam Ibn Qayyim may Allah be pleased with him and have mercy upon him, explained that the signs of a sound aspiration is that the aspirant's main concern lies in pleasing his Lord, preparing to meet him, being grieved at the times he has spent other than in his Lord's pleasure, and regretting the missed opportunities to be close and intimate with him. And the summary of this is that day in and day out, he has no concern other than this. And one of the fruits of this aspiration, this labor of love, is that being granted that inner peace. The Prophet ﷺ had said that whoever makes the afterlife his concern, Allah will gather together his affairs, place contentment in his heart, and the world will come to him despite his reluctance. And whoever makes the world his concern, Allah will split his affairs, put poverty before him, and nothing of the world will come to him except what Allah has written for him. And the Prophet ﷺ has also said that Allah has said, O son of Adam, free yourself for my worship, and I will fill your chest with sufficiency and remove your poverty. But if you do not, I will fill your hands with distraction and will not remove your poverty. And perhaps the most profoundest fruit that arises as a result of this aspiration is being indemnified in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's divine love, as the Prophet ﷺ had said, whenever Allah loves a person, he shelters him from worldliness. So here the question is often asked: how should material possessions and wealth be dealt with? Should they be totally abandoned? And the answer to this apparent dilemma was aptly given to Imam Ibn Taymiyyah, may Allah have mercy upon him, who said that wealth should be viewed just like a toilet, in that you have need for it and resort to it when necessary, but it has no place in your heart. So now we go to our spiritual tradition. The Islam sacred law, or the Sharia, not only provides guidance for man's external well-being, but it embodies a narrative for his inner growth as well. And it is this inner narrative or spiritual tradition which guides him to subduing this bestial nature and elevating the angelic nature within his soul, as well as purifying the heart from the spiritual diseases that veil it from knowing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and being truly devoted to him. And indeed, it is only when the souls transcend this bestiality and the heart is purified from the veils that render blind its spiritual perception, one can be infused with the illuminations of ihsan, the very essence of faith and spirituality, which the Prophet ﷺ had explained as being that you worship Allah as if you see him, for if you do not see him, he sees you. And Ibn Rajab al-Hanbali, may Allah have mercy upon him, said as part of his commentary to the above prophetic words that worship Allah as if you can see him, for if you do not see him, he sees you. It indicates that the servant, Abd, should worship Allah in this manner, namely evoking the feeling of his nearness and of his being with him as though he sees him. And this in turn necessitates reverence, fear, awe, and glorification of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as occurs in the narration of Abu Hurairah, that you revere Allah as if you see him. And it also necessitates sincerity in the worship, as well as exerting all of one's efforts in improving, completing, and perfecting it. And Ibn Rajab further said that it has been said that the second part of the sentence, is the cause for the first part. This is because when the servant is ordered to have vigilance, muraqabah, of Allah whilst worshiping him, and to feel his closeness to the point that it is as if he was seeing him, then this may be difficult. So he seeks aid to attain this through his faith that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees him, is fully aware of his secrets and his public acts, his inner and outer states, and that nothing of his affairs is ever hidden from him. And when he actualizes this station, maqam, it becomes easier for him to move to the second station, which is where there is continual realization upon spiritual perception, basira, of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's closeness to his servant and of his being with him, to the extent that it is as if he is actually seeing him. And it has been further said, rather, It refers to the fact that whoever finds it difficult to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as if he's seeing him, then he should worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon the realization that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees him and is fully aware of what he is doing. So let him be shy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala due to the divine gaze upon him, as one of the Gnostics, Afun, said, fear Allah lest he become to you the most despised of those watching you. And another said, fear Allah in proportion to his power over you, and feel shy of Allah in proportion to his closeness to you. And a female Gnostic from the predecessors of the Salaf said, whoever acts for Allah due to witnessing Allah, mushahada, is a Gnostic Arif, and whoever acts for Allah due to knowing that Allah sees him is sincere mukhlis. So this indicates the two stations that were previously mentioned. Of course, being the first, the station of sincerity or ikhlas, which is where the servant acts whilst bringing to mind that Allah observes him and that Allah is fully conversant with whatever he is doing, and that Allah is close to him. So when the servant brings this to mind in his actions, this being the root of his actions, then he is sincere to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is because evoking this feeling during his actions prevents him from turning to other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or from desiring other than him in his actions. And the second station, the station of mushahada, this is where the servant acts whilst witnessing Allah with his heart, which is when the heart is so illuminated by faith and the spiritual perception is so heightened, it is as if the unseen is beheld with one's eyes. So we go into the required wayfaring. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala stirs in the heart and wins the yearning for the afterlife, the akhirah, diffused through the soul, then striving, or the jihad, against whatever hinders the wayfare, the suluk, to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala becomes essential in order to nurture this awakening. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, exalted is He, has said in Surah Al-Ankabut, Surah 29, Surah 69, as for those who strive in us, we shall guide them to our paths. Commenting upon this verse, Ibn al-Qayyim, may Allah have mercy upon him, said, Allah transcendent is He, made guidance dependent upon jihad. The most perfect of people with regards guidance are those that perform jihad the most. The most obligatory jihad is the jihad against the ego or the nafs, capriciousness, hawa, the devil, shaitan, and the world, the dunya. And whoever wages jihad for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's sake against these four, Allah will guide to the path of His good pleasure, which in turn lead to His paradise. Whoever leaves jihad forfeits guidance in proportion of what he leaves for it. So a vital aspect of the servant's suluk, the wayfare or the wayfaring for it, and engaging in this inner struggle in order to attain a deep conviction in the Shariah's truth, remove sluggishness, make compliance with its rules easy and spontaneousness, and to eradicate the ego's opposition. So put simply, it is to carry out the Shariah's command, preserve in it, and to do it sincerely and with perseverance of heart. Furthermore, suluk is, as Ibn Taymiyyah explained, of two types. First, the suluk of the righteousness, abrar, the companions of the right hand, which is fulfilling, which is obligatory, and forsaking what is forbidden, both inwardly and outwardly. And second, the suluk of the ones brought near, muqarrabun, the forerunners, which involves fulfilling the obligatory and the recommended as much as possible, and leaving the forbidden and the disliked. And the Prophet ﷺ had said, Allah the Exalted as He said, whoever shows enmity to a friend of mine, I shall be at war with him. My servant does not draw closer to me with anything more beloved to me than the right religious duties I have obligated upon him. And my servant continues to draw closer to me with voluntary deeds so that I love him. And when I love him, I am his hearing for which he hears, his seeing for which he sees, his hand for which he strikes, and his foot with which he walks. And once again, we are returned to the station of Ihsan, as Ibn Rajab, may Allah have mercy upon him, explained. Whenever a person strives in drawing closer to Allah, exalted is He, by performing the obligatory deeds, then the optional ones, Allah draws him closer to himself and raises him from the degree of faith to that of ihsan. Here he begins to worship Allah, witnessing his presence and having vigilance as if he sees him. His heart fills with knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or khushua of Allah. And with that love, the reverence, the fear, the grandeur, the awe, the intimacy, and the yearning to him and yearning of him, to the extent that his heart is so filled with this that it is if it sees him with the eye of spiritual perception. And finally, as the servant embodies and internalizes obedience to Allah, and as his spirit is elevated and his ego is debased, he is filled with a deep concern for people's welfare and for being in their service, aiding, guiding, counseling, and supplicating for them. It is here, in the absence of the ego, that the effusions of true altruism pour forth from the servant, exemplifying the prophetic concern and of conduct. So, with this comes the blissful life. The Prophet ﷺ had said, he has relished the taste of faith who is pleased with Allah as his Lord, with Islam as his religion, and with Muhammad as his messenger. He ﷺ also said there are three things which, if they are present in anyone, will cause him to taste the sweetness of faith. First, that Allah and his messenger are more beloved to him than all else. Second, that he loves others only for the sake of Allah. And that he should hate to revert to disbelief after Allah has saved him from it, just as he would hate to be cast into the blazing fire, being the third one. The heart, when it is truly sincere to its servitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is given a taste of such sweetness and experience such delight that nothing besides this servitude is held more beloved to it. And before we continue on, I'd like for us to all reflect, is there an in particular time that we can look at, or sometimes we even strive to, as a memory in our own mind, of this was a time, this was a season, this was a month. We can especially look at the past month of Ramadan that has just passed as possibly a time where we are the most committed or the most endearing in our faith. How do we keep that sort of time, or that sort of feeling, or keep that in mind as we're reflecting on these times, ages, as to the time in which to use that as a reference to ourselves, that this is a very possible thing, not only to reach again, but to further that sort of conduct furthermore. But for this spiritually sound heart, they find nothing sweeter, more blissful, or gratifying to it than the sweetness of that faith, the Imam, which is born out of the labors of its gnosis, its love, and its servitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Imam Ibn Taymiyyah, may Allah have mercy upon him, said, if you do not find the deed producing a sweetness or expansion in your heart, then blame it, for the Lord, exalted as he, is indeed appreciative. Meaning that he will reward the doer of the deed in this world with experiencing sweetness, expansion, and delight in his heart. Whenever one does not find this occurring, then the deed is defective. Imam Ibn Taymiyyah, may Allah have mercy upon him, elaborate upon the state of bliss and delight experienced by the sincere servant. He said, there is no true bliss, nor any delight, joy, or completeness for him except in knowing Allah, loving him, being tranquil in the remembrance of him, feeling delighted in drawing closer to him, and in yearning to meet him, this being the paradise of the worldly life. Likewise, there is no delight or success for him in the afterlife except with his being enveloped in the abode of bliss in the paradise of the next life. So there are for him two paradises. You would not enter the latter without first entering the former. I heard Sheikh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, may Allah sanctify his soul, saying, indeed, there is a paradise in this world. Whoever does not enter it will not enter the paradise of the afterlife. And one of the Gnostics had said, there are times that pass over the heart about which I say, if the people of paradise are in the likes of this state, then what a wonderful life they are in. And one of the lovers of Allah had said, the poor people of this world have left it without having tasted the sweetest thing in it. And they asked, what is the sweetest thing in it? And he replied, the love of Allah, intimacy with him, yearning to meet him, drawing closer to him, and turning away from everything other than him, or words similar to it. Indeed, anyone with life in their hearts affirms this and experiences its taste. So with that, we come to the beautiful vision where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said and mentions in Surah Yunus, Surah 10, Ayah 26, for those who act with excellence is the greatest good and even more. And this greatest good is a reference to paradise, whilst this even more is a reference to the gazing of the face of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For the servant, having lived his life in the pursuit of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's good pleasure, having striven to worship him in this world as though seeing him, is then rewarded by Allah in the afterlife with paradise and its delights, the greatest of which is the beautiful, beatific vision of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Prophet of Mercy, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, has informed us, when the people of paradise enter paradise and those of hell enter hell, a herald shall call out, saying, O people of paradise, your Lord has undertaken a promise to you which he wishes to fulfill upon you. They will inquire, what might this promise be? Has he not made heavy our scales, whitened our faces, brought us into paradise, and delivered us from hell? Then this veil shall be lifted, and they shall gaze upon him. By Allah, they will not have been given anything more beloved to them than looking at him. O Lord, I seek your forgiveness for speaking about matters for which I am not of its people, O Allah. I seek refuge in your pleasure from your anger, in your forgiveness from your chastisement, and in you from you, O Allah. Grace us with a fervent desire to meet you and with the delight of gazing at your face. Ameen. With that here, inshallah, we have, let's continue on until the end of this section here. So about this in particular book here. So the book has three sorts of aspects. We're going to discuss the author, its theme, and its translation, inshallah. Actually, the translation, introduction. I think we'll have enough time. May as well start strong here, inshallah. So the author is Abd al-Rahman ibn Nasir ibn Abd Allah ibn Hamid al-Asadi from the tribe of Banu Tamim. He was born on the 12th of Muharram of 1889 of the Common Era, 1307 after the Hijrah, in the city of Unayza, situated in the province of Al-Qasim, central Saudi Arabia. He was orphaned at a young age. His mother passed away when he was only 4, and his father when he was only 7. His older brother Hamid was then entrusted with his care and upbringing. And by the age of 12, Sheikh al-Asadi had completed the memorization of the Quran, after which his pursuit for knowledge of the sacred law began in earnest. He studied the traditional disciplines of the hands of a number of senior scholars of the land. Sheikh Ibrahim al-Jasir, Sheikh Asali ibn Uthman al-Qadi, Sheikh Ali ibn Nasir Abu Wadi, Sheikh Abd Allah ibn Aid al-Harbi, and may Allah SWT be pleased with all of them. Let's continue on. From the age of 23 up until his death, the Sheikh devoted his life to teaching, instructing, cultivating the people. During this time, he authored over 30 books and treatises. But Sheikh Abd al-Rahman al-Sadi, after suddenly falling ill, passed away just before dawn on the Thursday, 23rd of Jumada al-Akhir of 1376 after the Hijrah. May Allah shower mercy upon him, be pleased with him, and raise him to a ranks of the truthful ones. Al-Sadiqun. Ameen. So the theme is that the book consists of a short didactic poem and its author entitled The Journey to Allah in the Home of the Hereafter or the Afterlife, as well as a brief explanation to the poem, which he calls the Exquisite Pearl, Al-Durat al-Bakhira. And the nature and the brevity of the book is such that it may be regarded as an introduction or a primer to the science of suluk. And the book elucidates the main stations that the heart is required to embrace as a part of its journey to Allah. And what is meant by a station is a praiseworthy quality, such as sincerity, love, fear, hope, patience, satisfaction, and renunciation, which the heart succeeds in acquiring and firmly rooting in of itself. And when this occurs, the heart is said to have arrived at that particular station. If, however, the praiseworthy quality wavers and has not settled in, then the heart is said to be in a state hal, which is not a station maqam. So Ibn al-Qayyim may Allah have mercy upon him, explained this distinction between the states and stations in the following manner. What is correct here is that the occurrences and stations are named so by taking into consideration the particular state for it. So they are glimmerings, flashes, and external appearances at the onset of their occurrence, in the same way that lightning glimmers and flashes from a distance. But when they dawn upon him and encounter them, and he encounters them, then they become states. And if they become firmly established within him without vanishing, then they are called stations. So initially they are glimmers, flashes, midway they are states, and finally they are stations. And therefore the initial glimmer of that state is of that light is a state as well as a station, but these terms are only named so by taking into consideration how they connect with the heart, how manifest they are upon it, and how firmly rooted they are in it. And the difference between the two may also be clarified in the following example. Renunciation is one of the lofty stations of wayfaring, being proven so by the text of the book, the Sunnah, and the agreement of the pious predecessors, as-salaf as-salih, and of this nation, the Ummah. So the knowledge of the world's ephemerality, the censor of it, and to those who chase after it, and the praise of those who turn away from it, and instead aspire to the life of the hereafter, is what initially causes the heart to incline towards renunciation. Then, if success is granted, there appears from the limbs certain acts that indicate the presence of this state in the heart, such as shunning worldliness and materialism and engaging in righteous actions and spiritual works. The state then encounters opposing influences such as ego's enunciations, satanic whisperings, and the soul's capriciousness, which urge and lure him towards worldliness. And in the wake of this onslaught, which state may waver and fluctuate, it may even vanish completely. But if these influences are combated, and the effects become firmly ingrained and deeply rooted in the heart, then it is called a station. And one of the purposes of suluk is to aid the transition of experiencing states to arriving at stations, and from experiencing moments of alliance, patience, fear, hope, satisfaction in Allah, etc., to be permanently adorned with essential and praiseworthy qualities. And the actual vehicle for this transition is inner struggle, the jihad, by which these qualities may be imposed and then imprinted upon the heart. And this, the Prophet ﷺ said, indeed, knowledge is acquired by learning it, and forbearance is acquired by imposing it upon oneself. And then there's notes regarding the translation, but finally, the believer in his quest for spiritual growth is his desire to draw closer to Allah. No, this is not a one-sided affair. Rather, he is reassured and comforted by the promise of divine reciprocity, about which the Prophet ﷺ has said, Allah, mighty and majestic is He, said, I am as my servant thinks I am, and I am with him as he remembers me. If he remembers me to himself, I remember him to myself. If he remembers me in an assembly, I remember him in an assembly better than it. If he draws closer to me by a handspan, I draw closer to him by an arm's length. And if he draws closer to me by an arm's length, I draw closer to him by a fathom. If he comes walking to me, I come hastening to him. All praise be to Allah, Lord of the worlds. May Allah's blessing and peace be upon our Master Muhammad ﷺ, and upon his family, his companions, and all those who follow them. So, for the sake of introduction, I think the translation of the poem should be written, and inshallah we'll open up to our discussion point, and we'll start in the coming weeks with a reiteration of the poem, inshallah. So, Bismillah, the poem is as follows. Fortunate for those who avoid the destructive paths, intending the stations of Allah's good pleasure, those who journey with the utmost sincerity, following the legislation by which faith is measured, those who build the stations of their journey, submitting between being fearful and being hopeful, those whose hearts the divine has filled with devotion to him and love for the most merciful, those who remember him and do so abundantly in private, public, and at all times in continuance, seeking nearness to the sovereign master by obeying him and forsaking disobedience, Doing what is obligatory and optional is their way, inspecting their own faults and their deficiencies, their souls patiently enduring all that is disdainful, desirous of what it entails of benevolence. They arrive at a station of contentment, ultimately reaching the garden in safety. For his bounties to his creation, they are grateful with their heart, tongues, and their limbs of their body. Reliance is their companion in all affairs, while striving in the pleasure of the All-Merciful, worshiping the divine, believing in his presence, thus taking their place in the station of excellence. Advising others to that which pleases their Lord with knowledge, guidance, and compassion, accompanying the people and bodily form, whilst their spirits dwell in a sublimer station, at a sublimer station. They alert creation to their complete need for Allah, continuously fearing a decrease in their faith, continuously fearing a decrease in their faith. Their hearts turning away from all distractions, completely emptied of other than the most merciful. Their movements, concerns, and their resolves are all for Allah, not creation, nor the devil. The best of friends is the seeker of these paths, which leads to acquiring goodness and ihsan. And with that, we will start the actual book, inshallah, of the Exquisite Pearl next week, and we will open up now to discussion. Allahumma subhanahu wa bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.